Hello everyone, how you doing today? Thought I'd do a short little video and show you some of the current projects I have and abandoned projects I have. I was asked that. I was like, do you have a bunch of things you give up on? And I'm like, yeah, I do. So I thought I'd show some of this stuff. Obviously, I showed these before. I did a little more work to this particular SV. Now this is going to be for Excalibur's PvP Class 3 challenge. Um, Basically, all the darker gray in here are just updated blocks from where it was prior, and I keep on trying to, I don't know, refine the body a little bit more and get more of it done, of course. So yeah, I kind of built out different thruster housings. I'm on them right now. I don't know if I like what I got there or not. Might try to tweak that a little bit more. But this ship, it's all about being tough and it would have a secure cockpit and whatnot. And that's about it on that one. Now these two I'm really excited for. I'm kind of excited for this, but just not as much because I like the looks of these better. Um, this one, yeah, definitely excited for this one. I want to get this finished up and working. And this one I'm really excited for. I think out of my SV designs, especially for like the Creel, this I like the looks of this one. Um, and then of course I definitely want to get going on this thing too, the this tripod POI killing alien thing. Um, so I'm excited for all these projects, but let's just take a look at all these things that I started and either didn't release or didn't finish. Um, so there was this thing. This was my first attempt at doing the Asteria destroyer. I wanted a smaller destroyer type CV with a lot of guns and combat steel. Um, and I started with this, and I don't know. I ended up stopping working on it. I guess I wasn't. I don't know. It was all right. I just didn't know if I really liked it or not. I was struggling at the time with it, and then I started the what became the Asteria, and I liked the looks and design better on it. Um, this is something that's complete. I just never released it because it doesn't really have any practical function, and it was a hyped up open air SV, very vulnerable, really fast, kind of fun to fly around on, but it doesn't really do anything special. It just was screwing around one day with some parts and you know stuff like that. So I didn't ever release this. Um, I think I might have for friends only for a little bit, but I think I pulled that off from there. This was an idea of a HV kind of a concept. I wanted to do these like swing arm things and stuff like that, but I found it to not again not be very practical for game. It was trying to go too much for its design, which kind of didn't make the function terribly wonderful on it. Um, and well, this obviously did get complete, but this was my first color scheme when I was trying to figure out the Creel. Was I kind of was going with a green tone at the time, and I eventually switched that over to the purple. This was a very quick build over here, experimental little tiny SV. Called it the Merc Mini. Um, yeah, I don't know. It works, I guess, but you know, it's just like it kind of underwhelming to release, so I just didn't. um, this I made when I was on the creative server or the creative anvil server. This was a light ship. Basically, it's got a bunch of spotlights on the bottom of it. You'd park it above something and illuminate the area. I really should get this out to friends only on the workshop, but I don't want to do a public release on it. It's just it doesn't do much again. You know, it's the stuff I do release to the public. I want it to work and function and have a purpose, one way or another. This thing back here is kind of like a two-part thing. I'll show you the other half of it there. This was a drops 3x 320K storage CV that you would sit in this thing here. You would fly to a building and then park it, and these doors up on the top here, while this area would be then visible to the inside of that base. Overall, I ended up ditching this project because I don't know, it was kind of weird, and I wasn't totally sold on how I was docking it and things like that, so I didn't really do much more with it. The mech, I got to get this out too. I like this. Again, it doesn't have much practical purpose in the game, and I haven't really ever decided if I wanted to keep real guns on it or put in like fake antennas and stuff. And should it, it's got to be able to fly so you can at least park it, but as in using it in game for anything, it's very awkward and wouldn't work well at all. So that's where that one stands. This was a concept of my first idea I had for a rocket SV. I abandoned this project, and then I ended up building the Merc Mav instead. So this was kind of like a rocket gunship kind of thing. It had a whole lot of rocket launchers on it. But I don't know, I wasn't terribly happy with the body. I was trying to use, again, as few of thrusters as I can, and really, really big ones, but man, they just take up so much space and things, and you got to build up around them, and I don't know, I didn't like it. And despite the ship's size, which is decent, it had like almost no interior space too. I mean, it's all just full of big thrusters, and I don't know. I decided to scrap that one. This was something else I started. I don't mind it. It just doesn't, it's not really too unique or anything. Kind of a shuttlecraft. I had issues with the side doors and the guns getting in the way and things like that. And I ended up abandoning that one too. This thing was an idea that I wanted to build a CV that kind of looked like a big stealth fighter. But it ended up being too tall and bulky, and I just didn't like it after I started working on it for a while and gave up on it. This thing here, this was a concept to make kind of a stubby assault tank, kind of tall, but problems with being so tall is like you got to get up to the cockpit, so I would need a big like ramp inside it, and I don't know. I ended up abandoning this, and this actually, then when I started over, it became the Gigantes HV tank. So that's kind of where it started. It's got some of the similar features, but I lowered it down a whole lot and things like that. This was an attempt to build a ultra cheap thing that I didn't go very far with at all. I won't even bother with that. This was made, and there was a hour build challenge that Excalibur had a while back, and it was to build a SV, or is this an HV? No, it's an SV. And this is what I ended up coming with up on the fly. I didn't have a plan when I started building it, and I never really fully finished it. I started like throwing colors on it, but I was in a huge hurry. It was a 1 hour build time, and typically my builds take a whole lot longer than that. So I was just kind of trying to slap this thing together, and I don't know if I really like my ideas with it or not, but that was abandoned. This was just for fun. I wanted to use the X-Wing looking cockpit and build a X-Wing looking ship, sort of. Dimensions, looking at the actual X-Wing, this is off on a lot of things. These thrusters are bigger on the real ship and things like that. So, it was just for fun. This was another concept of some kind of powerful HV tank, but I abandoned it pretty early. I didn't really like what I had going on there. Awful lot of thrusters on there too. This was, I never finished it in time, and I ended up abandoning it because I didn't think it would work very well. But this was a built for a Mr. Spicy challenge some time ago, and it is basically, it's not finished, but I was trying to build a unit from a RTS game. And that was Supreme Commander Forged Alliance, and I believe this was the UEF Mobile Construction Experimental, or also known as the Fat Boy. Scaled down massively from what the actual RTS game would have it as. But yeah, I like the idea with the tank treads and things like that, but it's just very wasteful, and I didn't really see that this would work very good. And what I did with the cockpit here, I didn't like at all. So never moved on with that one. This was just a reskin of the MLV Intrepid, but this actually led, due to its luminosity, especially at nighttime, it's extremely bright. This kind of led to the idea of where the Creel is now. First playing with texture lights at nighttime, and I think I've showed this before in other videos too, but yeah, it's just the way it lights up. You can kind of see a little bit of the Creel in it, although I altered the colors more to a purple and a little toned them down and things like that. But it was kind of like the experimental skinning technique that was eventually used for the Creel later on. Then getting into bases, quite a few of these. This one I happen to like the looks of a lot, and I showed this in other videos too, but it just, its practical function to me just seems weak. It's got a lot of guns, but doesn't have any of the features I would want on a base, like spaces to park HVs and SVs. Doesn't have a hangar. It could have a farm, but I don't know. Maybe someday I will continue with this project. But the actual shape of the building and things, I do like that. So there's nothing really I don't like about it except for its questionable function versus cost. Just doesn't seem practical. This was another attempt at a cheap starter base. What I ended up doing is rather than continuing with this one, I actually built the Waypoint abode instead. So, but this was my first attempt at it. So I don't know. I guess similar. I don't mind the design too bad. It's just I was again having trouble with practicality on it, I think. This was totally experimental. I wanted to play with other textures, like the brick texture, and try to make something look different. And I don't mind it. I just didn't really feel like pursuing the theme on it, and it had some issues and things. So it was just for fun kind of build. This I was just screwing around one day and trying to make letters from the blocks, kind of like beveled 3D letters. So, and I was thinking, you know, at one point in time, I kind of wanted to build a Merc headquarters building, and this might have been on the wall or displayed somewhere in it. I then again assessed that situation a little bit and was like, well, again, impractical. Don't really need it. Probably won't accomplish anything. This thing here is the counterpart to that CV storage thing way over there. Essentially, how this worked is you would line that CV up, you would fly at this point here, and then you drop down in, and then this area opens up where you can get to all the storage bins from inside the base, and also have a airtight seal on it. Now, this idea actually migrated into the Hephaestus spaceport with its supporting Transit L2 SV. So I kind of changed it around a lot, but I kind of used some of the same ideas behind it. But again, abandoned project. This one I like, especially now. I keep on thinking it could make an interesting Creel base. but gosh, this thing is big, bulky, expensive, hard to place. Um, the gun layout probably isn't optimal, and but I think it would work as a decent base. It has at least it's got the hangar, pretty good size hangar space, things like that in there. It could have all the other stuff, but I was worried about size class. I didn't want to go past size class 5, and this would. Um, so I didn't know what to do with it, so I sort of stopped working on it. But this weird formation up here did kind of lead to some of the design things that were done on like the Creel base that was put out. Although I changed this around a lot and kind of went for a little different shaping. It's some of the stuff was similar, I guess. So yeah. Oh, and this thing. This was another starter base concept. I didn't get too far with this one either. Well, a little bit. Oh yeah, and at the time I didn't know how to switch these windows, and that really pissed me off. Now I do, and that was one of the reasons that made me upset with this base is these tinted windows up here, and now I know it's so easy to fix. But this was just going to be a general, little bit mid-size but cheap starter base, I guess. More glass and things like that, constructors, and it was going to have a hangar back here. Um, I don't know. I just ended up giving up on this one too. I guess I didn't really like the design all that much. Um, it's seemed maybe a little wasteful or something like that. I had a bunch of room I was wasting on the roof and whatnot. So yeah, these are all these things that I've just gave up on over time, um, and I think that's all of them. Now the with building new things, most of the time they get reworked and changed tremendously from where they start, and keep on refining. Even if you followed the Alien CV or the geez, now I can't think of wow, what is the name of it? No, the War Carrier. Jeez, man, I can't think. Oh my gosh, Overseer War Carrier. Even if you've seen like the early works on that, and then of course the finished version, like some 3 months later, you can see that it changed an awful lot from where it started at. Um, so that's kind of how I go. It's rare that I actually build something the first time that I like. I think the biggest success I've ever had on that was on the Merc MX5. That one I just sat down one day. I was sitting on a beach, and I like to build on the beach. Kind of like what this thing is over here. Um, oh yeah, this is another one. Um, Another kind of abandoned project. Nothing terribly wrong with it. It's just I don't think it's terribly wonderful either. It's all right. It could probably turn out to be nice if I tweaked it a lot. But well, anyway, that's pretty much all I've got for today. Yesterday and throughout the weekend, I was just trying to jam getting that CV up on the workshop and all the other little things I had to do with that, and the bazillions of screenshots and things, and it just took pretty much all day. Well, all my free time for the day. Um, Now tomorrow, God, I don't know if I may have a video tomorrow, and if it is, it's going to be on probably working on one of these things over here, and this is kind of my priority because it does have a due date, where these other two don't really have any due date. Um, and yeah, I do want to work on this. Other plans I have for the Creel faction is I did want to get into a space station for them. It was brought up a couple times. For tutorials, I definitely wanted to get into something that deals with modularity, building parts and assembling parts to build larger structures. Problem I've got is that doesn't work so well for the Creel race because of one of the design elements that they kind of follow, and that is that it's always changing. So they don't deal with much in repetitive, like across the body. I wouldn't want to have like the same part again and again and again, because it's a constant flow that I try to do with those. It would work better for the human faction, but I'm trying to think of a neat tutorial or something practical that I could build for the base that is done with like modular parts made to fit together to build a larger structure. And I really did want to get a tutorial out on doing that. I just got to think of a good project for it, and that's where I'm kind of stumbling. Well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Didn't cover much, but I will have new things and stuff to show you at some point. Also, if any of you wanted any of these unfinished things like this here, I would just call this a rocket SV, or this thing just a generic SV at the time. Let me know, and I can put those on my workshop as friends only. I don't want to release this stuff to the public, but if anybody wants to just pick them up and continue on these projects, same goes for this thing over here. Oh, this is a HV, duh. Okay, so this is a HV. It's a tank. Or this thing over here. This is also a HV. So as in names, we'll just call this HV tank and HV bigger tank. This thing, you know, there are pictures of what it's supposed to look like from the actual game it came from online to get the idea on what its shape was. Like I said, this was massively scaled down from what the actual unit in the game would be. All right. Well, anyway, you all have a good day. Hope you enjoyed this. And next video, I'll promise to do some building and something more interesting than just showing you all this old junk here. All right. See you later, all.